Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Briefs podcast series, Everything Business, the show where we speak to industry leaders and get their insights about the ongoing reality of the business ecosystems in India. Now, join on this episode is Sean Shinde, my co-host, and me, your primary host, Sahib Singh. And today's episode is as unique as it is personal for us, since we're currently diving into a space which hits very close to home, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is content creation. Now, online content in and of itself has been pretty much an evolutionary phenomenon over the years, right? It's gone through various changes, it's gone through various forms to add value to our lives, at least most of the time, I think. And now, to the impact of COVID 19, the focus on content creation is pretty much staggering, right? And the future just seems to be a lot more exciting overall going forward. There seems to be a lot more avenues coming in as there were prior. And now it's a very exciting space to dive into. And to discuss this evolutionary aspect of content, our guest today is Mr. Deepak Raj, who currently leads one of India's biggest streaming platforms, Loco, by Dice Media, as its vice president. Now, before wasting any time, let's get right into the conversation. Deepak, thank you for joining Everything Business. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Sahib and Sean, for having me here. It's a pleasure to kind of having a chat with you guys and figuring out how we could probably dive into a bit of this content rigmarole that has been happening for the last 4 or 5 years. I'm part of Pocket Aces, which has Filter Copy, Dice Media, Gobble, and our own app ecosystem, which is Loco. So just a connection on that front.
Sure.
But broadly, very happy to be with you guys here.
And it would be safe to say that times have actually been treating you guys well.
Yeah, it is. It has been not. It's been very positive than what we had expected. So that ways we are very happy right now, and there is more space to grow, and we are effectively looking at how we can grow further. In this scenario, there has been phenomenal growth in the last 6 months in the gaming ecosystem, which was already present in some way or the other, but the visibility for that is much higher now, much more developed as a market. So we're looking forward for that growth to be seen at a much higher stage.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah. All right. So to start things off, Deepak, content over the years has taken a lot of forms, and it has been on a constant trajectory of evolution, so to say. And your experience has pretty much mirrored it over the years and your experience within the industry. So according to you, if we were to start things off, what were the landmark challenges and the landmark changes in changing content and its consumption habit across various spectrum?
I think the changes dates back to there has been content has been always available, whether it was in form of street theaters or moving into further drama and theaters and stuff like that. Then moving into written content that we all have been reading or learning about. Then it moved into your films or theatricals, short videos that is coming in. So the evolution has been persistent and has been growing for a long period of time. From where what we had a print, a radio, and a television coming in, all of a sudden there was a spurt of different content consumed by people the minute there was satellite TV come. So Z pioneered with that, and then Star came in and Sony came in. So the general entertainment category kind of evolved from around 1990s to about 2005. 2005, 2010 was the A period of many experiments that happened, from a GC to niche content to only movies channel to music channel, everything coming in. From that perspective. Similarly, there was an evolution in print as well, magazines coming in, subcultures in magazines coming in. So all that evolution was happening on one side of it. 2006, around 2006-07, something changed. YouTube came into the picture. And now it was more about easier access to content, anytime, anywhere content that came. Then around 2008 or 2009, Facebook came into the picture. While Orkut was already there, but Orkut didn't have so much of video being shared and communicated back then. But then from a social machinery, there was Facebook that came in. Now, Facebook and YouTube combined became a great um, asset for the user to kind of communicate using videos. This transformed. That would be the major transformation that would have happened in the industry, where we all started. India saw the pinnacles of that coming up from around 2010, 2011. We actually started seeing more than 5 lakh views or in that zone. It was the first time we started seeing those kind of a transition happening. Then we had this momentum going on from around 2010-11 towards upwards of around 2015, I would say, 2016. And then the other versions of content came, which was OTT. Technically, YouTube is also an OTT. But now more specialized content genres started coming in. Media houses chose not to put their content in YouTube and wanted to have their own app or applications for their content to be disseminated or distributed, which gives them a higher hand in monetizing it in the way they wanted, rather than being dependent on a third party like a Google or a YouTube kind of a platform. So this transition kind of started evolving, and then as we see today, I think 2015 or 16 is when, I'm not sure about the dates, but Hotstar came and launched it with the IPL, and then the rest is history. Now we have at least 38, 40 OTTs broadly, but the major ones around 5 to 6 of them who are creating multiple genres of content. Another interesting change in this ecosystem would have been Netflix coming in. So while YouTube, we got used to that user-generated content concept, and Facebook helped in user-generated content to be disseminated or distributed, Netflix kind of changed the game from an OTT perspective, where they came in and said massively curated content, specifically super niche, which you might not be able to see anywhere else. For a simple reason that TV could have regulatory issues. YouTube is more UGC, might not have the same kind of a production value that comes in. That Netflix era kind of catapulted to today what we see as the rest of the OTT business coming in. What is the next big thing, which is already there, was more of an immersive entertainment now. There is some kind of actionable element in, say, the social communication that we do. There is like, share, engagement and everything stuff like that happening with Facebook, Twitter, Insta and stuff like that. But much more immersive, how you be a part of the content itself. I have to look gaming from that lens. It is, you are being part of the content that is designed around you. Till now, you're watching Money Heist or any robbery show. Here, you can do a robbery while Grand Theft Auto. So you're part of that story. So it's again as similar as the content segments that can be. You could be in a war movie while you're playing a PUBG or Call of Duty, and you are being part of that movie. You know, whether you win or not is upon you. If the hero has to win or not is upon you. So that's the level of immersiveness that gaming has come in, which is one of the reasons why starting around, I think, 2017 or 18, the PUBG phenomena kind of took over India. We are a mobile first market, and while we have had desktop gaming or PC gaming, or I wouldn't say so much of a console gaming in India, but PC and desktop gaming has been there, I think, from early 2000s, or from then only. I used to play games with my desktop, having PC games coming in over there. And from there, now, with the spread of mobile and internet connectivity, and it's not just the internet connectivity, also the, the phones that we are using now. So imagine we used to spend, I remember there was a Nokia Engage kind of phone, which used to cost, I think, around 15,000 rupees back then. Today, in 15,000 rupees, you can have a full screen HD OLED display and whatnot, right? So that's the difference that has happened. So the hardware that you have today at an affordable price has changed the game, along with the internet coming. So with that, you are part of the content. You are no more a passive viewer or even an active engaged audience. Now you are part of the content. So that's the difference. These are different segments which I believe have created a lot of trajectory changes in itself of where the industry is going to kind of go.
Okay. Sean,
Also,
any thoughts?
Yeah. So also, I mean, another thing that has happened, a big part of it is technology has played a very key role, right? Because the device has changed. But unlike a lot of other industries, one thing that's sort of consistent here is that it's not entirely cannibalizing the previous device. So, for example, television still exists today, right? Yeah. So, I mean, and you cannot disregard that. It has probably, the content has taken, evolved with a certain amount. What started with DD in India, which became set-top box, cable set-top box, and now you can have plug-and-play devices such as a Fire Stick or a Chromecast. So the device has, I mean, while it has gone hand in hand and been a major catalyst in this evolution of content, it hasn't really disregarded the previous the incumbent per se.
It's a very popular perception that I've seen at a lot of times, which I have argued against of saying TV आएगा तो print मर जाएगा, digital आएगा तो TV मर जाएगा. It's not that way.
Yeah.
Today, Times of India, The Hindu, all of them are still staying. They're, I think, at least 120 years. Old organizations who are still providing substantial news in whatever way, right? As a print medium. And TV, the ease of the lazy boy in us will probably never change. The habit that has come in, you're still confused about choosing what should I choose. Is again, that's what is happening with an OTT. And slowly and steadily we're seeing the laziness of let me put something in whatever when TV comes, I just have to press. Let them recommend. And those things are also happening in an OTT level. Content recommendation is one of the most important levers for any OTT to be successful. And Netflix kind of nailed it today, and Amazon is doing really well on that front. Indian OTTs are almost reaching that persona of content recommendation coming in. So, but again, that is from this insight of let them show me what I want to watch. So it's that cannibalizing. I think is not. It is true for certain industries. It is true for magazines, for example, right? The kind of distribution that a magazine would have had 15 years back is not the same right now. So, but as a media organization or as a content company, all these magazines would have also taken leap into different forms of content. So whether it's a GQ, Vogue getting into YouTube and creating content on YouTube or social in general, where you have, say, the niche categories of Femina getting into digital articles. So it is, they will find a way to kind of renew, because ultimately, whether it's a journalist or a content creator, he knows to make content that people will like. Now, how can it be distributed is this next level of thought that can come in. So the cannibalizing is not something that I'm against, vocally against that. And same with the growth kind of levers, right? We will say digital is growing so much, gaming is growing so much. Now the growth is key. If you're moving from 100 to 150, you have, say, a 50% growth. But when you're moving from 1,000 to 100, 1,100, you will have a 10% growth, but the actual revenue is 100 and this is 50. So the growth prospect, because there is a volume to fill, you are very new and volume to fill. That doesn't mean the other industry is not growing. Certain industries are not. Especially during COVID, we have seen radio take a very bad hit right now because people are not traveling and stuff like that. But there is somebody who's replacing them, right? You are still listening to music. There is a Spotify, 7, iTunes, and everything coming in. It should be wise for the radio platforms to kind of look into these kind of segments. And when people go back to the road, these habits might not wean off, but they still want to kind of listen to what the RJs are saying. It can't be taken away. Today, these 7 and Spotify, today, if I'm looking at music, it's specific music that I want. Again, the lazy boy feel of while driving, I just want to listen to something so that is entertaining. Can't be cannibalized. The volumes will differ, but these are habits, and habits mean a lot to human nature. So I feel that's still I am in this part of the argument that there is no cannibalization.
And as you rightly said, I mean, experience is such a big part of consuming the content. There are some things that we are spoiled for, and we transitioned heavily into this space because of the entire COVID scenario and everything. But there are some things that we still crave. When things get back to whatever sense of normalcy, and it being safe, I mean, we would want to go and attend a concert. You would want to go to a mall and watch, a movie. So these sort of things, as an experience, as you said, right, will kind of come back. You also mentioned one interesting aspect. I mean, in terms of how companies, largely incumbents right now, have taken a lot the digital platform, right? We had the new guys who disrupted the space, and we had the established guys who were, say, production houses, etc., who had multiple channels on television, who have now also entered, say, a Z5, for example. Is this driven by FOMO? Is it a Me Too aspect, or is it a natural evolution that's happening?
No, it's a natural evolution. There is no FOMO over there. If you are a content creator, you will find all means and methods of how to monetize that content. Right? If you're not monetizing that content in all the aspects that it can be, then anyways, content as a business is massively resource heavy. Now, and margins are very low when it comes to monetizing it only on one platform. So whether it's TV, whether it's print, etc., it's human resource heavy. Now, to optimize that, wherever and whichever method that the content needs to be proliferated will help in amalgamizing the cost that is coming in. So wouldn't be a fear of missing out. It is the authority of content, the power of content that these media organizations have. If you actually go back to 2010-12, YouTube used to host almost all major bigwig shows of India digitally. So, for example, a Big Boss, a Kapil Sharma show, KBC, most of these things used to be on YouTube. Now, think of it this way, that all the monetization that YouTube was doing, there is a share that was given to the media owner. And there was a chunk of share which was kept with YouTube in itself. Now, as a content producer, if I have the capability of earning all that amount by myself, and because I am the one who's actually manufacturing that product, if it's content or whatever, why should I not do it? And that's when that shift happened. I think 2012 or 13 is when that shift happened, when Star pulled out content, when Colors pulled out content from YouTube. And then they started their own.
And it's interesting that you mention it, actually. Going back to your previous answer, something which you said about India being a smartphone first country and content producers actually changing their approach at large. So this smartphone boom in its essence has allowed ease of content and a layered level of diversity among the kind of content we consume, right? So purely from a production point of view, when it comes to original content programming or production, how do you think it has changed the approach of content producers at large to cater to this kind of an Indian audience?
Full in digital have been people who kind of looked at subcultures, whether it is music, whether it is movies, whether it is sitcom, horror, thriller, etc. Whatever their zones are, people started looking at subcultures. And when I say subculture, stand-up comedy is a subculture. Unplugged music is a subculture. I'm sorry, I think
You're
there's some
audible.
issue with the internet. Am I audible?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay. So these are all subcultures. Now the transition from subcultures and the habit formation of watching it in the small screen, initially it was all trial and error. If you actually think about it, all the content back then was, say 5 years back, was mostly 7-minute or 6-minute or 10-minute. We as consumers started getting habituated. We started watching micro series, say 7-minute ka 3 episode maine dekha, 21 minutes I've spent. Now today people can watch a half an hour show how they used to watch in TV. So now that content disruption is back. Now OTTs are saying, let me go the GC route. I don't probably need to look at only as subcultures. I will look at all general entertainment. Today, I'm comfortable in watching 2 hours of cricket match in my phone. Hence, IPL is working on the phone. So that habit formation has automatically happened with the user. So now the content creator can also adapt in the same way. Okay. Like there is no as big a production as covering a cricket ground, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that is today you're watching on the phone. So at least 10 million views are happening on the phone. So there is a possibility you are watching it, and most of the shows that you would have watched it on big screen, you are watching it phone. Now the technology is coming in where you can cast it, you can do it via Fire Stick directly, so you get the same. So we have gone the digital route back to TV. Technically, that's what is happening.
Mm-hmm. You also mentioned one interesting bit, and this goes back again to your previous answer. Sorry to circle back to that, where you spoke about how Netflix kind of changed the game, right? And if I remember correctly, there was a show called Black Mirror. It was engaging in the sense it wasn't just about recommended content or whatever, but it was also where the user had to play a part in the character's role.
Yeah, exactly. It was season 2 of Black Mirror.
Yeah.
And there is also an independent movie which came out via Black Mirror called Bandersnatch, which was essentially immersive.
Exactly that.
So Bandersnatch is the character, right, in the show, and his daily actions, right, from what should he choose to have, as breakfast cereal, have Frosties or so and so. Let the user play that part, and I think that the data that got captured thanks to all of this, with what Netflix did. I'm guessing that played a big part in the entire content recommendation thing that happened subsequent to it. So how have now other companies also entered this space in terms of content recommendation?
See, internationally, this is not a new technology. Okay, there are a lot of web series that has happened in this interactive content space. A few years back, the first ad campaign that happened was on YouTube. There was a Honda Civic International R model, which is Honda Civic Sport model that came in. What you had to do is, at that time, we were predominantly desktop users for YouTube back then. You had to press R on your keyboard and the move would change. So currently your morning, you are just a guy getting your kids to school. If you press R, you are going for it's almost like money heist. You're going for a bank robbery with the same car. Okay. So this interactive element has been there for a long time. Netflix, the reason why Netflix ka Bandersnatch is much more evident or noteworthy is because it has been done on that platform. So Netflix has been able to create or build that technology inside this platform at scale, which is commendable. And then the content thought of it. So there are some. Now we have seen this from a very gritty thriller kind of a zone with Bandersnatch. There are rom-coms happening in the same level. There are international shows. I forgot the name of the show, but there are shows that are happening, and this is very interesting that way. Even before that, if I go to from a UGC perspective on YouTube, you could choose. So the basic was after a video is done, there are 2 playlists that comes in. You could choose what ending you wanted, and then the next video will play accordingly. So it's basically that in the Netflix thing, the complication of the number of production elements that they did was much higher. Hence the noteworthiness that comes in. Again, that goes to the fact that this is part of the immersive evolution. Without any of this, you could do that in your phone right now. If you download Call of Duty or PUBG or whatever, PUBG is banned. Right. But you do that, you be a part of it. And it's not just where the story is leading, but it is about what are the things that you could do to lead the story in the way you want. So you want to win, what are the things? So it is very inherent human nature amongst all of us to play or to fiddle or to do something, you know, and that is where this part is coming on. This has happened in TV also, the inherent nature of doing something. Nikhil Chinnappa's MTV Select, we used to call and ask for this thing. We used to SMS for I want to get the song that I wanted. KBC, I want to have the hot seat. So that inherent nature is being used by any media houses who are smart enough to kind of use it in the right direction. There is a lot of data that you can get. There is a lot of understanding that you could get depending on which format. Then you consume it the way that you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So that's my perspective on that.
Okay. So 2 aspects which essentially come out from this is the idea of choice, which essentially started off from gaming in its very early form, so to say. You could choose your characters, you could influence their decisions and influence their journeys throughout the game, essentially in RPG, role-playing games, so to say. Which sort of transitioned to online content, right? Now we're almost done with 2020 and we're nearing 2021, and content progression has essentially gone from, say, print, then went to broadcast, then digital, social, and immersive, right? So, and the time frame of this evolution has sort of reduced. If broadcast to sort of say digital took 10 years, digital to social took maybe 5 to 3 years, and social to immersive probably took maybe a year or year and a half.
Yes.
So if we were to look at the global trends from a macro perspective, what would you say is the next step after immersive? Or is immersive going to be there for a while? Is it here to stay? And from an Indian market point of view, how far do you think we are in terms of this race to sort of, be the next big thing in terms of technology?
Yeah, so I think from when you say immersive, I could talk from a gaming perspective. We are still at the initial layer of immersive. We have not reached the 2D or 3D version of immersive, if I have to put in from a movie perspective. We are still at very single point, one touch kind of immersive. The immersiveness is from an audience side where I'm supremely engaged or inside the content, and I'm one of the character. I want that to go in. But immersiveness can go into a lot of different levels. Now, if you ask me, does immersive stay? Immersive is the one that is going to stay. It is going to stay for really long. It's not going to be. It's not just a fad that is coming out and this thing, because elements of immersiveness have been there in across media functions for throughout, and this is the time when the technology has helped us enable that immersiveness in the right experience. What levels of immersiveness will go further is what is to be noted.
Correct.
And whether VR works later on and stuff like that, that belief in VR had gone from 2019, 2018, it kind of shattered, only for a simple fact that this huge a box, it's like mobile phones also, when it came in, it was this big a phone, Okay, you are not going to use that, right? And that's the same problem today VR is kind of facing. Going forward, if the technology comes in where it is as simple as a pen or as small as a glass that I'm wearing, which Google tried, didn't work, probably too early. Google Glass came in too early. Geo currently announced probably a virtual reality conference and stuff like that coming. If that comes into reality in the next 2-3 years at affordable prices, the reality is possible anytime. I think Google Glass came in with a 75,000 or a 1 lakh price tag to it. But if it comes in under 900 rupees or something like that, I don't know what that costing would be. That's when the second phase of immersiveness or almost a higher value of immersiveness will be adopted by the masses. Till then, it will be a niche subculture happening. But these immersive experience of gaming on your this thing, all that will grow as much as we want to. Probably more concepts in the OTT forefront, Bandersnatch kind of concepts might evolve. But again, the problem over there is the cost to cost to ROI ratio. What is the kind of amount of investment that I have to do to create one such big thing? And does India have the capability? Yes. Does India have the ROI generation only on Indian market? Probably. So the day Indian content is being consumed, like right now, there are a lot of Indian originals which probably Netflix or Amazon are taking up and are being consumed by other markets. The minute that becomes like Money Heist is a Spanish or I think Latin American kind of a concept which all of us are consuming, right? End of the day. So Narcos. The day this happens in India, then we have a larger audience. Probably the ROI of the investment that I'm putting in is much higher. Then we could consider. But if you ask me, do we have the capability? Yes, we do have the capability. It's not like we don't have the capability.
I think that has reflected significantly in the kind of FDI that happened into the country, right? With respect to especially gaming companies. Before the entire China issue and, the block on, say, Dream 11 and the money that came in from Tencent and Alibaba, there's a bunch of FDI that has now come in from American companies. In fact, recently, I think a couple of days ago, with respect to online game streaming, Facebook has also started released it in the States, and they're planning to go global with it very soon. So I think this whole concept of more than a concept, this actual transition that is now also happening, right, with online game streaming, where a bigger audience and this aspect of immersive content is now actually taking very good form with this.
It is. So Facebook gaming has been existing for the last, I think, 1.5-2 years. Twitch has been there globally. India didn't have anybody, and that's where we came into the picture. Loco came into the picture saying that we would want to kind of ensure there is immense momentum in this segment. Now, what are the possibilities of an Indian company in the gaming ecosystem? Can we create games that can be consumed globally? Yes, we can. Now comes the ROI to investment ratio. Casual games, money-based games are easier to create from from an expenditure perspective, and doesn't require language, so it kind of can be passed on to multiple markets. There are a lot of companies that are doing that, including Nazara, etc., doing that. Now, if I have to create or develop a game similar to a Call of Duty or PUBG, I can develop that. It will take that kind of an investment, but can it reach to the global audience? So today, a 4G that has been announced. There is another very interesting game, Raji, which has come out. These are, I think, would be the first stepping stone of Indian game developing ecosystem in these huge, massive production games. The other ecosystem that will work is, but that doesn't mean that we're going to only play those games. It's like today we consume, why do we consume Netflix? Why do we consume Amazon or any of the international, before all this, we used to consume this from torrents. Yeah. So there is an innate need of knowing what is the global culture that is happening, right? Hence those global games will always be there. What will happened in that gaming ecosystem is, unlike cricket, football, and stuff like that, I still have. So for cricket, football, any other sporting element, you need to be physically fit. You need to be at par at this thing to reach a particular level. Here, you need to have a great intelligent mind to kind of play the way you should, and then it's the nimbleness of your fingers. Now, that gives an immense possibility for as many audience that India has, and we have a huge population. So all of them has an equal amount of chance to probably compete with somebody in China, somebody in US, wherever in the world with technology at their hand. The very simple fact of I think I can beat this guy helps in learning what is the best trick to work around this particular game. How should I play? All that thing are nuances which has helped in creating this ecosystem called as watching gaming content.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
That is unlike me. So one is any sport becomes the massive sport when people are watching it, when the top gamers are playing, which is true for esports as well. The only added advantage that comes in is today a guy from Mumbai or any tier 2 city, tier 3 city, or even a village can take his chance to hit Jonathan, who's the number one PUBG player in the country.
Yeah.
A guy can't do that with Virat Kohli. A guy can't do that with Sunil Chetri. A guy can't do that with MS Dhoni. Nobody. But he can take a hit at a Jonathan today.
Right.
So now, how to do that? That's where the consumption is happening. A, that is the need. Second is the entertainment factor. Where does he win or not is what he's trying to figure out in that game. So it's as good as watching a movie. Each tournament that we organize are in a day, it's a 6-hour live content that is hosted on Loco, or say where there are multiple A-League teams who are coming and participating. There are millions of people watching this content till the end to figure out who's going to win today's match. Okay, so it's as much involved as an world championship of cricket would be. IPL T20 will be 2 hour or 3 hour, right? This is 6 hour of content people are willing to watch, invest, and come in. So that's the level of engagement that these people are having. So these are multiple reasons why this segment will see a lot of growth, why there will be a lot of investment coming in. Which part the investment comes in? There are multiple buckets. So gaming as a whole, esports is just one. There is real money gaming. There is fantasy leagues happening. There is casual gaming, which is actually one of the biggest pie. So we also have casual gaming inside Loco, where people are coming, participating, because that fickleness of spending 2 minutes and not without stress is where the casual gaming is actually coming in and coping. There are certain strategy games and stuff like that. So it's all a bucket. Esports will see phenomenal growth because of all of a sudden technology coming in. Casual gaming has been existing in this industry for a very long time, because even in your desktop, Microsoft, those kind of days, you still had something, a Tetroid playing or something like that. You know, that just versions coming in. Esports required certain amount of quality of content consumption, because the production is heavy to render it and stuff like that. Today that is possible. Hence the growth is going to be phenomenally high in this segment.
Right. And in terms of foreign investment, right? Sorry, Saib. So in terms of foreign investment, where is the bigger opportunity according to you? Targeting the Indian market itself, or leveraging the talent available in the Indian market for the global audience to essentially say outsource, like Ubisoft, for example, has development studios in Bombay and Pune, right? So where do you think from a foreign investment perspective is the bigger opportunity?
Which are the developed markets in the world for, let's say, gaming? Okay, the saturation is already
the US. There. Yeah, definitely the US.
Saturation is already there. Yeah. Look at it this way. We might be a population of, I don't know, I think 7.5 billion or 8 billion people, humans in the world. what is Facebook today? Are looking at, I think, around 3 billion or 4 billion numbers. Where is the next billion going to come in from? China currently has not given them any entry, so they might be thinking about how to get in over there, etc. Same with Google. So, which is the other bigger market? Similarly for gaming, Southeast Asia, China are the winners in the gaming segment. Okay, because the technology was much more earlier with those guys at affordable pricing. Same with the US market, all certain parts of European market. Why would the FDIs come in? And they're coming in for that growth. Where is that next user base of growth that can come in? Definitely Indian market is where they want to kind of invest in for the users in India itself. So that's where the other one is a derivative of that, where there are players and companies which will create something, and you have experimentation with 1.3 billion people in the country. So whether it's successful or not. The minute it's successful, you put it out in any similar market like Brazil or Latin America, any other markets over there, it is bound to go successful. At least some part of it will go. So that will be the derivative of that. But currently, you need to look at the audience that we have.
Yeah. And in fact, speaking of derivatives, for example, last year, I think the year before
and
last.
And also, sorry, just to kind of add on to that, we are currently an economy which was not the case. The economy might be has seen a drastic low and stuff like that. But in generally, the village or tier 2, tier 3 kind of markets are also having disposable incomes at some level. Not everybody, the country is struggling in certain levels, but till now there was some kind of a disposable income. Earlier, India, if I go back 20 years, India didn't have that kind of disposable income, which is why China, South Asia, and US kind of grew. Today, that disposable income is here.
Yeah.
So they would want to capitalize on that.
Yeah. And like I was saying, as another fallout that has happened of all of this, I think the year before last, the number of students signing up for technology gaming development courses, I think grew up around 15 or 20% just in a single year. And I think this was pretty much in tandem with the spike in PUBG. So I think this entire ecosystem per se and the opportunity that lies here. And India has always been a market in terms of when it comes to IT, right? In terms of technology development, it's always been that market for companies. Now it's also, aside from an outsourced KPO bit, there is that actual, as you said, there is the potential of the consumer that has now come to the forefront. So
it has to be seen how it will work. So being technologically skilled is one part of the story, which happened if I have to closely relate gaming to something where these talent ecosystem can be worked, it's very similar to the animation industry. We all went on for animation courses. There were a lot of students who went in, but today it's very hard to find an opportunity in India for animation.
Yeah.
Again, coming to the part of investment versus ROI. If I spend 4,000 crores or 2,000 crores in creating one movie, which is what global production houses create movies on, right? Say animated movies. They have a mass market which is going out and kind of running. Nobody has taken or will to take that kind of a risk in India as of today. Which is why the animation industry today is similar to a BPO, KPO organization, right? Where there are today most of the Disney, Marvel, or any of these bigger animation projects, Pixar's, the Indian teams are working on. Even on DI, on animation, on characteristics, modeling, everything. These are the Indian companies working on it. But again, it's service oriented.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, if that skill base comes in from a higher level from an Africa or comes in from any other country, there are chances that it can move on.
Yeah.
So which skill are we upskilling on is really important to know. Just going by the fact that gaming is evolving and I need to go and be a developer in gaming, do we have enough opportunities in India for a developer in gaming? Yes. Casual gaming, yes. But for something, since you said that PUBG kind of ensured that 15% have gone into develop this thing, will we be creating soon enough? I'm not sure about that. That's my only apprehension. We will be creating, but would we have opportunity for this entire talent pool? Yeah. It's like the engineering problem also, right? We over-created engineers. Now, what do? They're doing something else, not probably this thing. So that is something which we need to be a little careful about. Today, if you are interested in gaming, I would suggest start streaming content. Be an influencer. Be what do you call it? Be an opinion leader in the community. You can do a lot of things. You could do gadget reviews. You could do games. There will be followers coming to you. You could monetize it via many other metrics.
Yeah.
Compete in tournaments. Participate, because next few years you will see a lot of tournaments coming in. India till now had only seen major tournaments from PUBG coming in. Tomorrow, I can assure you that there is going to be all the major players, including Activision, Riot, Garena, all of these guys pumping in a lot of money from a tournament angle. Participate in those tournaments. Again, that can be a career model. So it has to be seen. I'm not saying that you should not get into the development part of it. If you are good at it, definitely pursue. You could go anywhere. Even in India, there will be creation of it. But how many are we creating? Would that create demand and supply issues? That's something that we need to be mindful of.
Right. Okay. Three interesting aspects which essentially come out of this is, number one, speaking of overcrowding of engineers, you're speaking to two of them.
I know. We're recording a podcast right now.
Right. And the second thing
I chose not to be.
So the second thing which comes out of is this, it's interesting that you mentioned there are alternative career models which sort of exist out of this. I mean, we've seen people like Marques Brownlee do gadget reviews and make an entire YouTube channel and an empire out of it, so to say. And then the third thing which is interesting is mentioning of streaming, so to say, which has grown big over the last few years, and the numbers of the let's say the market scenario have been pretty much hidden in plain sight. Now, one thing which cannot be ignored from the conversation is the impact of COVID-19 here, which sort of brought up streaming to the limelight. So with newer avenues sort of emerging by the week into streaming, how do you think India's market currently holds up, number one? And number two, with the emergence of local players, let's say even Loco for that matter, what do you think the market looks like for newer domestic entrants in this space?
So this will be specifically game streaming. If I have to answer that on that front, look at it this way: there are 365 million gamers right now stipulated in the country. PUBG's annual monthly, I think MAU would have been in the range of around 30 to 40 million MAUs coming in. Daily would have been around 13 million to 14 million. If I just have to take the daily number, at least 40% of that number. So daily number of say 14 million, and 40% of it should be around say 4 million or 5 million, 6 million kind of number. 5 million people are hardcore enthusiasts or players in that game. They have constituted in watching the game. The rest of them, like probably me who plays, I'm not watching unless apart from what I'm currently doing, and I'm in the streaming ecosystem, I'm watching. But somebody who's my peer or my friend who plays, but he might not be watching, right? So that constitutes the other 60-70%. But this 40% is a massive number. Daily, if there is 5 million people actually watching only PUBG, then now this is only a PUBG's game record. Now, if I have to take Call of Duty, if I take CSGO, and then the PC game ecosystem, including the Valorant and League of Legends and the entire bunch of PC games. Now, PC games, they are much more involved. They have been watching it for a long time, not just now, which is what. So the gaming ecosystem or the streaming ecosystem has considerably been there for the last 1 year. It's just that during COVID, we have looked at it more seriously and say, oh, this is growing. But it has been growing. It has been growing for the last 1.5, 2 years. It has been always growing. Now, all of a sudden, why that is happening? Again, the break of the clutter. We didn't have 3-4 months of original content from any TV, from any houses or any production houses or anything, because the shoots were impossible. The only thing that was happening, which used to happen in the same way, was this game streaming, which was happening in. And yes, there has been a higher curve. I think we only saw around 122% increase in the viewership and streamers joining in and stuff like that. Now that curve would somewhere go stabilize and standardize when it reopens and stuff like that. But again, these are habit formation. We go back to the same thing of once the habit is formed, it's kind of difficult to take away, right? And if it's unless and until it's consciously kind of looked into. The minute people start liking these immersive kind of formats, they will continue to do so. So hence, even after COVID, there won't be much of a kind of a downer for the industry. It'll be stable. It'll stabilize a bit and then kind of standardize. Now, how do I see for a new player coming in? Today, Loco looks at we are developing an ecosystem. We are part of developing that ecosystem. And we are with the streamers or gamers in the country. And we are supporting even in this tough time. And this has been a tough time. Last 2 months have been really tough for any gamer in the country because of the ban and stuff like that. Everybody is aligned with the decision if it's data, this thing. But you know what? What else kind of can be looked at to the same league? What we are seeing is there are a lot of other global players who are coming and investing a lot right now, and they're going to pump in a lot more, which is what I said. Hence, the momentum is not going to stop. It is just the transition bump that has happened for the last 1-2 months. And Loco, from our side, we are looking at being there for the gamers during these tough times, helping them, being with them, producing content with them, doing tournaments which can help them cope up with all these things. And generally in the ecosystem, we are trying and figuring out what best things should be done so that that momentum kind of grows even further. So that's where we are involved. So anybody who's in this ecosystem who wants to be getting into the streaming space or whatever, I think the root of that this entire ecosystem is the gamer in itself. So that gamer has to be appreciated. He has to be, or he or she has to be well equipped and empowered with. Then automatically, you as an organization, if you want to be in this business, can flourish.
Interesting. Sean, any thoughts on this?
So, no, I have a couple of things, but I think as the points develop, I'll come up with those.
Sure. Okay, so moving on to the next aspect is that speaking of creating an ecosystem for that matter, I believe China was a huge part of it, right? Now, with the whole border tensions aspect and with the ban of Chinese apps in India, I'm sure there must have been some sort of a ripple effect across the industry when it comes to streaming and gaming as a whole. So how significant, Deepak, do you think has been the impact of the banning of these Chinese apps? And do you see this, worsening, or do you see this improving over the course of the future?
So 2 parts to that question. One is how significant has been the impact. Okay. Out of the entire esports industry, I would think that close to around 60 to 70% of the market was controlled by PUBG. That's the significant impact after PUBG has left. It's 70% of the market all of a sudden wiped out. What does it work in favor, and how has the impact been? It has been bad for the last 1-2 years. But what is the silver lining over here? From one game, today we are talking about Fall Guys, we are talking about Among Us, we are talking about Call of Duty, we are talking about multiple games. We are talking about Indian games developing, Raji, we are talking about Fauji. Achanak se from one game, we have 10 different things happening. The more the merrier. Industry is bound to grow. So this silver lining, if you actually look at it, most of the global players would have shied away from India just for the simple fact that 75% is controlled, 70-75% is controlled by Tencent of the market, right? Yeah. So beating them would have been a real tough investment decision. They have to be pumping a lot of money to kind of beat that. Today, that void has been created and that market is open for any of these global players to come and take it, which will help India because now another monopoly creation is not going to happen because everybody is going to get equal chance. Everybody already has the handset to play. Now the choices will be in the user's hand and the gamer's hand. So now monopoly is not going to be created, but the disruption is set to happen. So that's the silver lining in that, which all of us in the industry kind of agree with, saying that this is what is going to be. It's just a matter of time when this all of a sudden bump of 2-3 months will take another short of 2-3 months to kind of come up, and then it is again on the stature of growth.
Interesting. So moving on to one other aspect which I've been sort of having discussions with is the idea of not just creating one ecosystem across layers, but only one app creating an ecosystem within itself. And this gives rise to the terminology of this thing called a super app, so to say, right? Where one app essentially starts off doing something as one business model, as one kind of transaction model which it has, and then it ventures off into different verticals. We saw it with the Paytm, we saw it with Zomato started off as a restaurant aggregator, moved into content, moved into delivery, logistics. Paytm started off as a digital payment transaction mode, and then it went into savings bank, dealing with gold, and having its own content model for that matter. So would you agree that these super apps exist and they are sort of moving in their own different direction? Is it good for the industry, bad for the industry? What would be your initial thoughts on this?
I think it depends on whom you call super apps. So anybody who's coming in and saying I'm a super app, you have to evaluate who's going to be the super app. Super app helps in I don't know, in iPhone, when you have, you can create that one piece where you have multiple apps inside that, right? If you are able to mitigate that, where you are saying it's basically 10 apps inside me, then you are super app. So I can book travel, I can buy groceries, I can, order food, I can watch content, listen to music, pretty much what are the other things that you would pay bills, etc., in one app, then you automatically can do super app. Whether there is a need for it, there is definitely could be a need for it, and it's definitely easier for somebody to kind of go in. How do content play a role in that is something that needs to be seen. The reason why I'm saying that is, again, going back to our earlier conversation, that content in digital is very personal. So hence it is much more subculture-ish. So just putting generic content over there, which is available on other places, and just adding on to that content probably might not work. If your call is like, for example, Myntra did content, I think they did Fashion Superstar or something like that inside their app. Somewhere relevant, right? I am a product on fashion. I already assume that I have audience who are enthusiasts of fashion. If I provide content on fashion that is entertaining and probably at a larger scale, then it can come in. Good thought process. How it's executed, how it is successful, we don't know. But that's a way of approach that can be. Tomorrow, Zomato, again, getting into that. Food related, not necessarily food people related. Now, they know their audience best. They know their audience on, if you are an app, you kind of know their audience, that audience is not just into food, they are also into something else. They are typically XYZ metro, say, and this age group. They've been binge watching XYZ content. So then there is relevance of me providing. Tomorrow, Book My Show could start. They're all because they already know what is my content interest from the kind of movies that I've been.
Right.
So hence the content inside all these aspects is to be looked at. Now, it's not like nobody can do it. Everybody can do it. The thing is, does it, if I look at it not from a content business, just from a business, does it give me the same ROI as any other business would do over a longer period of time, will determine if they will continue or not.
Right.
Today, their core business is not that. Like, for example, I would see an Amazon and an Amazon Prime. Both are actually two different apps, but the value cycle is kind of created. Now, it doesn't matter if you're inside the same app or if it's not in the same app, right? So that value creation can be done even if you're two multiple apps. So So that's something that everybody will have to kind of think through based on their business. We have nobody to comment on that. So it's based on their business objective and knowing their user, whether it makes sense for them in the longer run from an investment perspective. People use content for attracting people to come in and do some other transaction, which I think is what Flipkart was looking at, PhonePe was looking at. Now that's also a strategy. Now they must have already done the working of what is the user acquisition that they will be using, or the cost of user acquisition that will come in for content, and what will be the probable transaction. If that metrics works right, then you should never stop doing that. You should continue doing that. If it doesn't work, then you should not be doing that as a business. So it's upon business to business. We don't know how their individual businesses goals are working on. Content definitely can be a lever for user attention, for user acquisition, and retaining the user. Whether it works for your business or not is something they have to do.
And something that you also mentioned right just now in terms of what happens with the user in terms of transactions within the app, in-app purchases essentially. And gaming has thrived off in-app purchases where you...
Very surprising for India.
Yeah, and because the earlier thing, I mean, when go back to our computer gaming days, the cost of acquiring a game was so high that was one of the big mitigants, right, in terms of adoption of that game. Now, when I can sample that game for free, and it just means that I need to upgrade my weapon, I need to pay, XYZ amount of money, or if it's, in terms of playing Rummy, so on and so forth. I think in-app purchases has been this very pivotal aspect when it comes to the revenue stream for gaming, right? On the other hand, you have what YouTube was doing with advertisements, in between videos where they started playing ads. For YouTube as a business, the revenue stream was that. Also, if you look back to television, where the one major aspect was the revenue that the channel per se, generated through advertisement slots in there, as a media, has moved from there to now where these companies subscription has become an equal or probably a bigger part for OTT businesses. And with OTT in particular, there is no concept of in-app right now. So do you think this is something that we could probably look at or will happen?
It will definitely happen. See, it's not like the subscription method was not existing before. Let's go back to print. You pay 3 rupees for your print.
Yes.
This thing. The other half of the payment is by advertising.
Yeah.
So it's always a 50-50, almost a 50-50. You go to TV, the distribution of TV, earlier via MSOs or say local cable operators, now via these Tata Skies and Dish TVs of the world and stuff like that. It's almost the same. So distribution again becomes a pivotal, revenue stream as much as an advertising. So these are two parts of or two pillars of revenue streams for media. It almost is in a 50-50.
In fact, the more the distribution, the better the advertisement, right? I mean, the inclination for an advertiser to even come to the platform.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's almost the same. Now, the same evolution will happen with OTT as well. There will be AVOD, there will be SVOD. Today, the SVOD is very low. Again, that's because of the kind of cost that we are probably asking them to pay.
Yeah.
We are asking monthly 50 rupees, monthly 100 rupees, depending on whatever, right, or whatever platform. Now, in this entire gamut, people are slowly starting to get accustomed to digital payments. And the more that happens and more need of consumption via OTT will happen, the price of the pie of subscription will slowly increase. And that's how it is going to be. It is going to be, again, it's predicted that way, that in 5 years' time, it will be a 50-50 ad revenue versus similar to TV in itself.
Right.
So it's going to be the same way. Now, interesting question is in-app purchases. Now, in-app purchases is actually, it comes in the transactional, micro-transactional gamut. Should I pay monthly 50 rupees or 100 rupees, or should I pay 1 rupee per content I'm consuming? right? This is something that YouTube had tried a lot of time before. For one movie, they charged 60 rupees, which you could consume and pay YouTube and then consume. I think even it's still there, but it used to be there a long time back. I think the transactional model, TVOD, as they would call it, transactional video on demand, will come in whenever there is too much of competition and stuff like that. Gaming in-app purchases is completely different. If you actually look at that calculation, a guy today around PUBG's monthly revenue would be in the range of $7 to $8 million. Okay, from India. Now that will be what, around how much will that be? 56 crores or something like that, right? 50, 60 crores. Out of that, around 60-70%, which is approximately 40 crores, is via in-app purchases. Now, in-app purchases, 40 crores by 40 crore people, which is again, they are looking at what monthly MAUs of 40 million or something like that, right? So technically, one guy is spending 1 rupee on an average. So if I have to just put it, there might be 10 rupee transaction happen in a month, which is a easier hack than me going and saying, you want to play PUBG, you pay me 100 rupees for it. So that is based on what is the need of the audience and stuff like that. And this is much more hyper. It is happening every 5 minutes, every half an hour. When you play, you want to upgrade your weapon, etc., etc. That in-app transactions are coming. So that is, and surprisingly, everybody said that Indian users are not ready to pay. It was this problem that PUBG actually defined in some way. I am averse as an audience, as an Indian consumer, I am averse or probably currently apprehensive about spending 650 rupees for my subscription. Mm-hmm. But I'm completely fine giving out 10 rupees multiple times for 65 times.
Right.
This is the point that PUBG worked in, and which is why the microtransaction happened. They did a good amount of revenue. And I think most of the gaming companies are also thinking on the same language. In the same way, I think somewhere down the line, an OTT might come in for one content or one web series. You kind of give in this thing, but we don't know right now. It depends on how fast or how soon it can come.
Yeah. So, Deepak, if I were to sort of go to my last question, which would pretty much serve as a summarization of the entire discussion, given the need of the audience, given the kind of content which is being put out, and given the kind of transaction models which have come into the picture, from a long-term perspective, how do you see brands, taking up different strategies or changing their existing strategies to content marketing as a whole, not just maybe perhaps keeping India, but keeping global markets in their agenda?
Yeah, see, I've been working with brands for the last whatever years that I've been working, and predominantly in the content domain. What I feel is brands follow where the people follow. So if the people are in gaming, they will come in gaming. The time will be 6 months or 1 year for that brand cycle to happen. Like how they're currently investing in OTT is because people are consuming OTT, the brands will follow. So brands are technically businesses, and their businesses are about reaching people, giving them or showing them some value, and based on that, the people will do transactions with them. For that, they need people. Now, wherever people are, the brands will follow. So today, if it is on OTT, tomorrow it's on. If everybody goes back to print, they will go back to print. So that stays, which is very evident in COVID time. We were all traveling. Today, outdoor business is zero. People are not there, so brands are not following. People are there on OTTs, brands are following. People are there on gaming, brands are following. So it's very they are waiting where the public is all there. So
cool. So I think that does it. And that brings us to the end of the discussion. Thank you, Deepak, so much for joining us today. Thank you, Sean, for being a wonderful co-host as well.
My pleasure,
and this brings us to the end of this episode of Everything Business. Be sure to check out all our other podcasts on our YouTube channel. Thank you, Deepak, once again for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Deepak.
All right.
You take care. Thank you.
All right. Cheers, guys. We'll see you on the next episode of Everything Business. Check out all other episodes on thebrief.co.in. This is Sahib Singh signing off. See you next time.